Welcome, friends. It's great to see you here. I came to noodle and drink coffee, and I'm all out of coffee. What do we do with that? Oh, dear. Hey, it's great to see you guys. So many good friends here, from David Reif and Jennifer and Jason Gay, Sue Finelli, my friend. It's always great to see you, Jay Armstrong and Joey Butts, and some new folks, it looks like, this morning. Let's see, who did I see? Marcus Way, and let's see, Jack, good to see you. I think you've been here before. Michelle Waldo, great to see you, my friend. Joey Butts, Tom Budis, Ben Flat, Joshua and Aaron Oler. Hey, great to see you. And Ted, how are you, my friend? Ted Summer. He's a sexy beast of a man. An absolute unit, don't you know? Oh, dear. It's great to see you. All right. Let's see what we got for you this morning. So this today's title is, I don't know, I would say perhaps misleading. I always say it's kind of weird because I just think weird, and I'm like, how are they going to take this? There's a variety of things going on, some of it around us and some of it in us. Some of the stuff that's around us, I would suspect that many of you, it's hard to live in the world and not be at least affected by it. You kind of know some of the things going on. Most of us in this community don't spend a great deal of time digging through the nonsense that they deliver to us as news, unless, of course, you visit the Poppycock Report, Tuesdays and Thursdays, shameless plug, at Rose 777 channel, where we break down these naughty news articles into poppycock, and that's just what they are. It's all designed to mislead you and keep you under a spell, some kind of weird, it does seem to be a hypnosis. The power of suggestion is very strong, and has been proven over time to be just that certain people are very susceptible to the power of suggestion. And what we see around us, and you can see this very clearly, when presented with the opportunity to see things as they are, when you show them irrefutable proof that they have been deceived and lied to, as these things often go, they don't wake up, and in fact, they get mad. But instead of getting mad that they were lied to, they get mad at the person who tries to tell them that they've been lied to. Samuel Clemens, posing as Mark Twain, who may entirely have been an author, an actor, sorry about that, is quoted as saying, among other things, of course, if you read the newspaper, if you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do, you're misinformed. But he also said it's much easier to fool a man than it is to convince him that he has been fooled. And that's certainly prescient words in our society now. It's a post-truth society where what we see around us is such a conflagration of lies that in this world filled with lies and deception, those who speak the truth are the most hated. It irritates people to believe that it's not even that they believe they could be wrong. Here's the thing, again, you see this cognitive dissonance when you speak the truth to them. And there maybe even be sometimes a spark of recognition, but immediately that falls away into sort of a blink, and this like the cartoon Hypno eyes. Their eyes are spinning, and they fall right back into this thing, and it's it's hard to watch, especially for those of us who know what's going on. It's pretty alarming even to see not only it happen to one person, but to see it happen to the majority of society, that they're walking around in a zombie-like state. Perhaps, again, we say truth in the movies, lies in the news. The zombies aren't the ones bitten by a virus, bitten by the idea of a virus that makes them want to eat your brains. Right? That's the part they want. Your brains. Give them up. Stop using your brains. Just be a zombie. Just wear the mask. Just get the jab. Everybody's doing it. It's to keep us all safe. Wear your mask, but I'm not sick. But oh dear. My wife and I were talking about it this morning, and we just shake our heads in incredulity at how, again, if this were someone that you knew, changing their story from the outset, telling some whopper of a tale, and then immediately change the story and say, no, wait, no. Okay, it's like this. No, wait. Okay, so it's like this. No, wait. They keep changing their story until it's upside down and backwards. And yet, anyone who questions it says, hey, wait a minute. Are you really telling the truth? Not even making accusations of lying, but just saying, hey, can you prove that? Give me some demonstrations of proof. Then they are shoved into the corner, told to shut up. You don't get to say anything other than this is the official narrative. Even when that official narrative has changed. And when you point out the fact that the official narrative has changed, then they tell you that's a lie. That's taken out of context. The fact checkers are going to come get you. Oh dear. I'm waiting to see what fact checker appears beneath my videos. On Rose 777's channel on the Poppycock Report, we've earned the context window of shame. They gave us the Q tag. I don't think we've ever once discussed that letter of the alphabet, other than it being a probable psyop, and the nature of the people who accept it and push it and punt it, even again in the face of just incontrovertible evidence that it's nonsense. I mean, is there truth in it? I mean, there's truth in every lie, right? I say over and over that traps don't work without bait in them. And the reason that the mice get caught in the trap is because they don't understand why the cheese is free. Poor discernment is all around us. And and yet again, you can't call them out on it really, because it doesn't work, I don't think. As I observe, and I applaud the people with, again, the temerity and the fortitude to go out on flat smacking tours and get up in people and ask these, but the confrontational method, I mean, it kind of, I think, feels good, and to see them go and stumble, that they don't know it, right? They don't know their own model. Most people who challenge the heliocentric model, for example, they know it far better and in much more intimate detail than those who accept it. And I mean, that should be one bit of truth, or one bit of evidence that those who question it know way more about it than those who accept it. What does that tell you about the quality of that model? And then they challenge you and say, well, what's your model? Well, we don't live in a model. I mean, look around you. And we're told over and over and without ceasing to don't trust your lying eyes. Listen to us. I know it seems like you're stationary and not moving, but really you're moving so fast you can't even tell. By the time you put all 5 axes together of motion and vectors, you are going well over 1,000,000 miles an hour. Well over. And in 5 different vectors, right? You would notice this. It would be the wildest ride ever. But they tell us that because we do it all our lives, we don't notice it. It seems completely, a flat terrain, other than, terrain modifiers, hills and valleys and that sort of thing. But other than that, we don't see the curvature that they tell us. And when you look for it and you can't find it, and the model that they present falls down at every corner, there's always a yeah, but, and then they push back. But what about yours? How does a chicken sandwich work? Well, first you get a chicken. Well, first you get an egg. I don't know which came first. The age-old question. And they get you arguing, majoring in the minors, right? Arguing about what color paint the elves in Santa's workshop are using, and if that's the right color paint, and if it has lead in it. Well, again, all that is pointless because there are no elves in Santa's workshop. In Satan's workshop, they're not elves. They're little critters, some of which attach themselves to people. Certain people who like to go, yeah, you motherfucker. Yeah, those kind of people. Oh, and they draw a sense of power from it, they think. Oh, dear. Anyway, gosh, so much stuff to get to. All right, so we've looked at the nature of it. And again, I think we're preaching to the choir here with the idea that we are surrounded by and immersed in a world of deception, an illusion. It's a play They keep moving the set pieces, and sometimes we notice when they move those set pieces, like the Adjustment Bureau, Mandela effect, right? We go, hey, wait, whoa, 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 whoa. What are y'all doing over there? Trying to track that down seems like a difficult prospect other than, for me, I just note that it's happening, right? Go, okay, this is one more in a series of events that indicates that they're doing a variety of things to say you can't trust your own memory. You can't trust your eyes. You can't trust your senses. Don't trust yourself. Listen to us. We're the only ones you can trust. And of course, this is the very categoric definition of an abusive relationship where you are being gaslit. They control your every movement. They control your expenditures. They control what you do, how you spend your time, where you can go, who you can be friends with, what you can say, what you can think and believe. They control it all and tell you that any question that you might have, you're crazy. You don't have the right or even the wherewithal. You're too dumb to get it. Let me explain it to you because we're experts in that field. Is this or is this not the world that you see around you? Again, preaching to the choir here. But some of the things that we see around us currently, we watch over time as they begin to move inexorably in a particular direction, a vector that seemingly cannot be stopped. And while that might seem terrifying to some, I view it in an entirely different way. That is, it follows the script. It was foretold long ago, and frankly, not by the ones pursuing it, but by the ones who are going to undo it all. Because they knew. They knew. We can watch over time as, again, history is but a lie agreed upon. We know we can't rely on the stories that they tell or even the characters in them. Charlemagne, for example. Look at the nature of that deception. See if you know anybody who's like that. And then in the same breath, we look at any of these guys, Plato, Archimedes, Aristophanes. We look at any of these characters who were the very paragons of deep thought and apparently single-handedly created all that we know in each of these categories. And yet by the same token, they live in a society who could barely speak. They didn't even have a written language, some of them. Knuckle draggers. One step above cavemen, really, who didn't even have a formal mathematics system, yet we're told in 40 years, the Egyptians created the Great Pyramid at Giza, who, to this day, we could not reproduce or even come close. And certainly not even in that time period, even, again, come close. And if we did create a structure, even of that size, within 100 years, it would be rubble. And we have no idea, really, how long that structure has stood there, defying mankind, or educating him if we would but learn. And all the things we see around us defy the lies that we're told. We're told that these ancient cultures, again, so stupid that they thought the earth was flat, and you might fall off the edge. And yet they build megalithic structures that still stand to this day, using techniques that still cannot be figured out. Melting rocks, using three-dimensional interlocking rocks of sizes unimaginable to modern construction techniques. Pretty remarkable how people who were stupid can do all these things. In fact, just 200 years ago, any person that you would consider a dumb hick now, a farm boy, could take care of himself entirely with no more than a rifle and a knife, a tinderbox, some clothes. He could feed himself, find water, handwrite letters, build a structure, mend his clothes, make things, do all the things that are necessary. And the modern person who believes themselves to be the very culmination of all of human intelligence because they hold in their hand a smartphone that makes them dumb, and they couldn't boil water without a microwave, and some can't even do that. And so as we see around us, things that we are told are both perilous and shocking and surprising, except not. What we are told is the reason that they shut down the world economy and as the cause for every death in the last year, eradicating all other forms of disease, especially respiratory illness, such as pneumonia or the flu, gone in favor of something entirely different that we're supposed to be terrified of. Yes, except for, you see, the problem with that is that over the last 40 years, there have been dozens of exercises planning for just such an event. To the point where Dr. Foul Cheese indicated during the last part of the Obama administration that he guaranteed we would absolutely see a surprise pandemic event in the coming year. In fact, within the coming Trump administration. Wow, how do you guarantee a surprise? That seems kind of counterintuitive and rather oxymoronic, don't you think? To guarantee a surprise, that's interesting. And in fact, in just the months before we were told that this occurred, 201 outlined it with complete specificity down to the fact that it was a novel coronavirus. Pretty remarkable how they did that, and sponsored by the World Economic Forum. Who knew that it would be an economic event? Johns Hopkins University, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Who wants to sell you a vaccine? Yeah, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So these things have been outlined over and over. We've covered them ad infinitum over at Secrets of Saturn. Wayne McCroy, Jason Lindgren, sometimes Crow 777 and other guests. We run through these things and show and demonstrate that they've been lining these things up for a long time. This is how they do. They telegraph their intentions for a variety of reasons. Some, I think, is what we talked about, sort of the revelation of the method, or the karmic shrug, that if they tell us in advance and we do not respond, we accept our fate, and therefore we deserve it. Maybe part of it. Maybe they're communicating to one another. We don't know entirely. As I've said, the truth community is kind of a bit of a misnomer, in that we don't really know what the truth is. We're striving for it, but what we do is reject lies, and mostly what they tell us are lies. The only truth they give us is buried beneath a pile of lies just to make them more stinky. It's like burying gold underneath a pile of shit. Most people want no part of it. But if you're looking and you look hard enough, it doesn't really devalue the gold. It just makes it more difficult to get to, and means that you have to be perseverant to get to it. Oh dear, perseverance, yes. Landing on Mars. Let's not even go there, shall we? But here we have in the last week or so. So, well, let's go here. We've been warning. And this is again, just say the truth community, for lack of a better term. I'm not that excited about it, but we'll use it because we know what the semantics are. So, the truth community has been fairly shouting about chemtrails over the last 40 years, warning that those, what they call persistent contrails, are something unnatural. Even if you don't make any claims about what's in them and what they're there for and what they do, just the fact that they're there is self-evident. And yet again, as they do, they tell us that we are crazy, imagining things. Why, that's just contrails. Vapor. But you see, the thing about vapor is it dissipates very quickly. Are vapor contrails a thing? Sure, they dissipate within a matter of seconds. But yeah, what we see is, again, chemtrails, and they explicitly say now geoengineering, right? Chemtrails are a hoax, but geoengineering, that's a thing. And Bill Gates loves the idea of blocking out the sun. Again, we know from what few documents have been released from the United States government. I say our. Most of my listeners are in the U.S., but not all. We have many Finns, several in Australia, New Zealand, and other part of the U.K., other parts of the world. But here in the U.S., their own documents admit that they are and have been modifying the weather for many decades. It was used in the Vietnam conflict, and that was in violation of the Geneva Convention, which outlaws using weather modification techniques for war. But we did it. But it wasn't war as a police action. So so it's okay. Never mind. It was just a matter of semantics. We'll just put another name on it. You see, the United States hasn't actually been at war since World War II. But we have been involved in military conflicts almost without ceasing ever since. Because they lie, you see. So we know that they use weather modification. Many people complain about China and their communist ways and totalitarian government, but at least they're honest about some of it. They tell you that they have a social credit score. They deny it here, but they still have one. They openly acknowledged that they used weather modification techniques during the Beijing Olympics, but we deny it. In fact, they say now they're making an artificial sun, which is weird, and that they expect to be able to have total control of all precipitation, snow and rain, within the next 5 years over the entirety of their country. And they say that right now they have at least enough to cover 2/3. The thing is, of course, all of these techniques have blowback. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And so as you modify nature, just like GMOs, the unintended consequences inevitably occur. But we've seen around the world, and certainly in the United States in the last several years, hand in hand with what we would call, disingenuous designation distraction events, hand in hand with the shootings and the riots, weather events. Hurricane Harvey seems almost without doubt to be a completely contrived, manufactured event. In fact, you can see if you go back and look at the weather tracking during that period of time, they not only precisely anticipated its track, but you can see the wave patterns, electromagnetic wave patterns in the clouds as they develop, pushing it and guiding it. In the same way that we do all kind of wave structure in wave propagation techniques, whether that's sound waves, which are longitudinal, or electromagnetic waves, which are transverse. We can guide those using constructive and destructive interference patterns to send them and guide them in ways that we want. It's very old technology and rather easily understood. They're doing this to simply manufacture and guide weather. I think it's interesting. I don't have it here with me now, but it is interesting that the commander-in-chief now, Senior Snuffleupagus, several times, welcome, Lynn Michelle, several times, I think I counted more than 24 times in a fortnight, used the word that we said we have a dark winter in front of us, as did his cohort in crime, Camel Toe Harris, Heels Up Harris, used the term, we have a dark winter in front of us. Well, that made me curious. Of course, they were speaking at the time in context of the COVID situation and the pandemic. But that triggered me to go back and look at some information I had seen before, because I've been keeping an eye on this bit, which is that all of the Five Eyes intelligence countries, every single one, plus several others, including South Africa, had run what they called dark skies events. And these were simulations of long-term power grid failures. Well, of course, I'm sure you could say it seems prudent to try to understand what might happen should that occur. But you see, hand in hand with all these other things, they've been telegraphing for a long time about how vulnerable certainly the North American power grid is. There are three primary ones. There's the East Coast, there's the West Coast, and the Texas coast, if you will. And it's more than just Texas. It kind of runs up a little bit into the Midwest. And these are the three primary grids. They're interconnected. But they've been telling us for a very long time how vulnerable those are to a variety of potential interrupting factors, from weather, as recently in California. Again, very dry weather combined with wildfires, which, again, we have video and photographic evidence that there are some type of energy stream, whether that's laser or microwave, but it's certainly a visible energy stream coming from the sky. Again, we know of airframe platforms that do have these directed energy weapons on them to create fires. We've seen video of it, and from what I can tell, they are not CGI. They are not fake videos. There's enough of them, and they look again. They look very legitimate and consistent with what I've seen of the military tests of these weapons. So, creating fires that killed many people, I think many more than they admitted to, but causing power outages. And then, in an odd reverse, because they love to turn things upside down, PG&E, the California Power Company, Pacific Gas and Electric, takes credit for it, or takes the ding for it, I suppose, and said, oh yeah, the wind caused power lines to come down, and that started the fires, except for, again, the meteorological records show no wind of the type that they're talking about in that area, nothing over 5-mile-an-hour gusts, other than after the fire started. So they sure do love chaos. They create that chaos because their motto is order out of chaos. Never let a good crisis go to waste. So they have been for years and decades warning us about the vulnerability from cyber hacking, incursion, to weather events, space weather. It could be a solar flare that causes it. Could be just standard overloading. A variety of events could cause the power grid to go down. And from time to time it does. And it seems like, again, each of those are controlled and tested. For example, this most recent event, in which numerous of our friends in Texas, my whole family lives, in fact, in Texas, my parents and my children and grandchildren, and my siblings, other than one, all live within like 30 miles of each other in north central Texas. So they're certainly experiencing this unprecedented event, both with the cold weather. But again, it's interesting that the cold weather map almost perfectly overlays with the last election cycle voting preference. Interesting. Almost as if, hey, we're going to punish you. I think Camel Toe Harris explicitly stated, we're coming after you. So we've got a manufactured weather event and power outages. And yet 14, 15 states had major power outages. But some of them, you see, they can't get their story straight. Somebody didn't send the proper memo, because some of them outright said these are planned outages and we're going to do rolling blackouts. And some blamed it on the weather and different things. In Texas, they started out by blaming it on frozen windmills until people called bullshit. And then they said, okay, hey, no, it's not that. And if you see the most recent announcement from the Texas Governor Greg Abbott, you don't have to be an expert in looking at micro expressions and body language to understand that he's lying from the first 5 seconds. He is in cognitive dissonance. He uses all sorts of self-soothing gestures, the believe me look, and words. He is lying to you. And even in what he says, which is that the commission that is supposed to handle and manage energy in Texas, because, Enron, because that happened. So now there's a new group there. So there's a group that's supposed to do that. And so he says, oh, yeah, they're responsible, and I'll take a hit. I'm going to be the good guy and stand up. But basically, they failed at every level. And so we'll have to throw money at it to fix it, which means, of course, you've already paid an exorbitant amount for your utilities. Texas has some of the highest utility costs. So we'll charge you for that. And then since they didn't do it, now you got to pay again in taxes so that we can give them the money to actually make it work. Okay. But again, they can't keep their stories straight because it appears at every level that this is, again, a planned event, both the weather and the power outages. And again, they always ask, well, why would they do that? Why would they lie? Oh, dear. Again, people lie to get a stick of chewing gum. Are you kidding me? Power and control over the whole world? Pfft, I'm not going to lie. What are you, retarded? I'm sorry, the oral word? Yeah, all right. So let's take a look here. I want to show you a few things real quickly. All right, so a number of documents. Most of these date back within the last 20 years. Sensitivity analysis of the power grid vulnerability, large scale cascading failures, power grid cascading failure blackouts analysis, reliability analysis toolkit. You've got an online toolkit where you can set that up and do dynamic modeling of cascading failure in power systems. Stochastic model for power grid dynamics, a modeling and simulation framework for the reliability, availability assessment of a power transmission grid subject to cascading failure under extreme weather conditions. And this is again from 2017. Modeling cascading failures in power systems in the presence of uncertain wind generation. You see, they're lining up a variety of scapegoats, whether that's cyber attack, space weather, wind, whatever. They're putting their story. They're trying to get their story straight. For a power system cascading failure, this is a discrete event theory-based approach for modeling power system cascading failure. National Guard dark sky exercise ensures the state is prepared for any attack. Dark sky exercise to simulate massive long-term power outage in Wisconsin. Dark sky exercise to simulate attack on the power grid. You see where this is going. And the light shined into the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. I love that one. You see, there's one thing I wanted to get to today, beyond just this, right, which is the more, perhaps, esoteric, which is, it also says in Scripture that the Creator is entirely light, and there is no darkness in him. None. You see, light casts no shadow. One of the things that's come to me since beginning to question the nature of the world, at least what we're told that it is, one of the things that's come to me is the sun. What the fuck is it? We're told it's a ball of burning hydrogen gas in a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. What? 93 million miles away, some nearly 900,000 miles in diameter. A quick look at the inverse square law should be your first clue. That cannot possibly be. The inverse square law, of course, states that for every doubling of the distance to the source, the energy as long as the energy remains the same, the energy per area diminishes by an order of magnitude. So you double the distance from the source, 4 times, right? It's 4 times less. And so this is what Trey Clark used to demonstrate that the story of the brightness of the moon, especially from the moon, could not possibly be. But again, if you were to use the rules of the inverse square law that we know is an immutable law of physics and the propagation of light, and then work backwards for how far it is away, it would be incomprehensibly bright. We'll then take that to the level of the sun. You see, I started thinking about this and considering when you're in darkness, what does light do? Well, the first thing is that light casts out darkness. Darkness cannot exist within proximity to light. Light always dispels darkness, always. But to a degree, you see, the intensity of the light can only spread so far. There's only so much energy, and that energy per area, right, diminishes. And it takes even a several million candle watt LED can really light up a place, even at night. But still not for very, I mean, you can see it as a point source from, a mile away, but it certainly doesn't illuminate everything in that mile. And now start to consider how bright the intensity level of the sun. Well, again, 93 million miles is preposterous. But even if something that we could triangulate, again, if you try to use just Pythagorean theory and get to the distance and size of the sun using angular size, you end up with something about 32 miles in diameter and about 3,200 miles away. Even that would be incomprehensibly intense. To do what we see is light up everything, every nook and cranny where nothing can hide from the light. If you are in a room, if you're in a house, even a house without windows, during the daytime, there's still some light that kind of seeps in. If it's got one window, the whole house is illuminated. We might still say it's kind of dark, but you can see. Think about it. Think about the light that pervades everything. The brightest daylight, so bright you can barely see, but it illuminates everything. And the more I consider it, the more I, again, speculation, but it must be electromagnetic and lighting up the atmosphere, like actually lighting up the noble gases, because it behaves in such a way of total saturation rather than point source, single point source light. It's without getting too much into the physics of it, but keep in mind that everything is on this electromagnetic thing, the ether, right? And it's one more way that they hide the truth of the world. How many of you in physics, right, were taught, other than the basics, that electricity can be made to use electromagnetism? They're sort of interrelated, and you do the little experiment, and you take some copper wire and you wrap it around a nail, and you run electricity through it, and you get a magnet, right? Electromagnet. And then if you put that into within another coil, then you can make a motor, right? So you can get a brushless motor and do that, and that's pretty much it. But they don't really tell you the interrelatedness of these things. That magnetism and electricity are not just cousins, but they basically, the waves work correspondent to one another, corollary to one another at basically right angles, if you think of it in that way, these transverse waves. But everything pretty much that you experience is part of this electromagnetic soup, but the world around us, right? Even to the point where I'm fairly well convinced that even your solid objects, right, all of the things that we're told are atoms and molecules, really is a phase. It's a state of electromagnetism, such that it seems to be solid to us, but it's just in a sort of a fixed state of vibration. Anyway, without getting too deep into it, light is part of that electromagnetic spectrum. And again, it defies everything that they tell us, right? Because what we're, again, told is that anything that's outside our senses does not and cannot exist. So again, throw away everything supernatural or anything unseen. If it doesn't appear within your senses, it doesn't exist. Oh, but if it does appear in your senses, then you can't even trust your senses because it seems flat and stationary. But it's not. But keep in mind, again, that there are, we can't see into the ultraviolet. Many animals can. And this is how they can see visible markers within urine. This is why they, between that and their smell, they mark their territory with urine. But they can clearly see it, and they can track down prey by their trail using the ultraviolet spectrum. Some see into the infrared and can see the heat signature of other beings. We can't see that, and yet those things certainly exist. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And I find it fascinating that in the development of night vision goggles and things that use broad spectrum and full spectrum electromagnetic reception, very quickly those were removed from the civilian market. What were you afraid we might see? And there is certainly a lot of interesting stuff regarding Centelli telescopes that use broad bandwidth and phased light sources, so that you can see all kinds of things and seemingly living, sentient beings that are simply invisible to us. And I suspect that, again, if you begin changing the frequency that you were looking, you would see all kinds of things. And certainly, one of the interesting things that Cami Dodell showed, what they still say is this remarkable, crazy question. When as soon as you look at it, it's obvious what's happening. If you just use your mind, right? Is that using polarizing light filters? When you put one on, it darkens the light. It's polarizing it. It's the nature of polarized sunglasses, right? But you use two, and if you put them 90 degrees, then it gets darker, even almost black. But you put them 45, and suddenly it gets brighter. And in fact, brighter than the original source. And you use multiples, it gets even brighter. And they're like, I don't know how that can be. That's just so crazy. What's going on there? It becomes, as soon as you understand wave propagation and what happens with constructive and destructive wave interference, you immediately know that it's a constructive wave interference, that this is a wave. No, it's a photon. That's not possible. You cannot add more energy to a particle simply by putting a filter in front of it. That's retarded. It's very clearly a wave. They had to make it a particle, right, to go through the vacuum of space, because you have to have a media. You see, a wave is a perturbation in a media, in some medium, right? Like sound is a perturbation, it's a wave within air. It moves the air. You gotta have, it's like having a wave but no water. That's preposterous. But they needed a way to do it, so it became a particle and a wave with a photon. Oh dear. The lies get bigger and bigger. But what we have here is that light always drives out darkness. It does not go the other way. You see, in entropy, you have that hot goes to cold, and right, high pressure goes to low pressure. It seeks equilibrium. It's not the way light does it. Wave theory prevails. But the intensity of the sun is incomprehensible with the kind of light that we can measure and observe. All right, so now keep in mind that with electricity, and again, we could get into all this stuff where Martin Lidke, for example, gets into the ancient world and Antiquitech. We know for certain, again, one of the things, if you want to get into L.C. King, Lucas's galvanic model of the world, it's a gigantic battery. Seems pretty close to me. Seems like all the parts and pieces are there. With everything that I see, and certainly a toroidal electromagnetic field that works in multipolar thing, as above, so below. All those things are there in every way. All the aspects are covered. So what is it? Again, I don't have a working model, but as we try to figure things out, when you look at this again, the galvanic model and the way that this works out, what we see is far closer to the stories that we're told. So as they continue to manipulate these things around us, weather, I'll go back to this idea of antiquitech, right? We know, for example, that there is 100 volts of electricity for every meter that you go vertical. There's not much in the way of amperage, but the voltage certainly increases. So the higher you go up, you've got all kinds of energy there. It's just there. It's the nature of the world. Because it's the way it was designed. And so you go back and you look at all these old ancient buildings and what they tell us are lightning rods and that sort of stuff, or even just decorative wrought iron fleur-de-lis and that sort of thing, very easily demonstrated to be, it's just like these arrays, right? It's just like frequency array antenna. And it seems to be that they're capturing this energy, and they had a way to use it. Well, of course, you can't just have people wandering around having the ability to do that, so they had to destroy it all and sell us energy. And interesting that they would call it power, because that's what it gave them, was power. And then they used the same terminology for fluid dynamics. Electricity flows, there's current, and then they use money, currency, it flows, liquid assets. It's fascinating. So they sell us what we need to keep us under control. Sell us water, the most basic life-giving thing. By the way, I haven't given up on that this year. Season 2, I'm going to do a multi-part series into the nature of water. It will blow your fucking mind, because it's taken me almost 3 years now just to try to get through it, and I don't think I'm any further along. I got a lot of information, but man, it'll blow your mind what water is and does, and what it might actually be and infer. So, all right, so get back to this. We are, so many ways I could go here. You are the light of the world, right? No matter how dark things are around you, if you are connected to and express the light, you will drive out darkness, guaranteed. Light cannot exist in the same place as darkness. And this is exactly what I see when we get to the end, and we're told in many scriptures that at the end of all things, then there will be a judgment, right? It seems like a punishment, but I simply see it as those who are incompatible. When the light is too bright, it will drive out darkness. The darkness will simply be eradicated. You're filled with darkness? Got no place to go, because light will prevail. And so, no one lights up, words of Jesus, nobody lights a candle and then sticks it under a basket. No, you put it on top of a hill to light the whole town. You put it on a prominent place so that it lights the whole room. That's you, right? You are the light of the world. But here's the warning. When we get to you've heard of Agenda 21, I'm sure. Part of that, of course, is the rewilding of North America. This is ultimately the rewilding the world. What does that mean? It's a made-up term, essentially meaning that they want to return all space that is not a megacity to, quote, nature, to be reclaimed. which of course means shifting the entire population into mega smart cities. And, where necessary, FEMA camps, I guess. Well, that would seem to take some doing to talk people, especially those in, for example, if you can see my cursor here, those in this area. Less likely to say, yeah, buddy, we're down for that big city action. No, you need a motivating factor. And one thing that's certain is you get people addicted to and dependent upon something, and then take it away, they do almost anything to get it. So they've been telling us that they are very concerned about the fragile nature of our energy grid. Rob, that's awesome, man. Thank you, my friend. It's always great to see you just hanging around here, but that's too kind. Thank you so much. Come back and catch the rest, all right? You earned it. You paid for it. I always say, it's always free. You can get a full refund, but... So here we have their plans to put everybody into mega cities. The easiest way to do that, again, is to shut off the power. And people can't survive. They don't know how. The only people, I've said for years that when they, flip the switch, or switch the flip, the only people who are going to survive are the Amish. That's why they're not sick. They don't have TVs. Oh, dear. Yes. But we have all these groups that are, you got to love this page, right? They got the matrix in the background. So they're telling you. And then they make up these great names, the Wildlands Network, right? The Rewilding Institute, dedicated to these ideas of educate yourself. And they're saying that this, again, humans are responsible for all this climate change and global warming. Again, it's like a bad parent who fats their kid and then blames them for it. They give you no options but to buy dirty energy, burning of coal, that sort of stuff, and then say, "Oh gosh, it's all this burning of fossil fuels that is the problem. You terrible people! Look at what you did." But who's doing the damage? Them. They're the one that did it and gave it to us and sold it to us without any other options. So if you do a quick search for Agenda 21 rewilding, you'll get plenty of hits on Agenda 21. Sustainable development is what they call it. They're big into that. The objective of sustainable development is to integrate economic, social, and environmental policies in order to achieve reduced consumption, social equity, got to get that in there, and the preservation and restoration of biodiversity. Remember this line? You'll own nothing and be happy. What gives Agenda 21 ruling authority? More than 178 nations adopted Agenda 21 as official policy during a signing ceremony at the Earth Summit in 1993. Did you know that? 1993. Earth first. More about Agenda 21. Hand in hand with Agenda 2030. So, UN's on board. 178 nations are on board. And when they cut the power, and they will, nearly everyone are going to run hat in hand to the closest FEMA camp and fight each other for one of the coveted positions to get in so they can get a hot shower and have 15 minutes of Wi-Fi to update their Instagram account. You know I'm not kidding, right? This is but one of many reasons why I have made the decision, my wife and I, to extricate ourselves as quickly as we can from this beast system that makes us absolutely dependent on them. You see, when they stop the food coming to the local grocery store, what are you going to do? I've got more than one friend who works in logistics, and they are telling me that they are doing everything they can to prepare and to prevent, they're creating artificial scarcity. They're using this pandemic to create artificial scarcity of products, not just to drive the price up and price gouge. That's not the point. The point is to make you dependent. You will have one source. One source. And you can imagine who that is. Who's going to be Big Daddy Savior? Save your butt when things go south, right? So it's all planned. You see, they're letting the nonsense stuff go through, but they're keeping you from food. And I showed at the Poppycock report last week the hundreds of container vessels that are at anchor outside San Diego being held up. Again, they come up with nonsense stories about why, but ultimately it's to create these artificial shortages and say, oh, it's the COVID. We can't move things around. Right? Food being recalled by MS outlets. Thanks, Mark. Yes, step one to food scarcity. They're doing and they've created this from time to time. They'll say, oh, there's Ebola there's E. coli in your lettuce. These things all are little tests. They're little litmus tests. They run these tests constantly. My very first appearance on Crow 777 Radio was talking about the nature of surveillance state and what they do with this, that there is no way to keep from having them gather all your information. And it's not really what you think it is in terms of just snooping on you. They do track everything, but it's to create a model. And they have numerous, multiple real-world AI versions of you running in these supercomputers 24/7 constantly and running these scenarios to see how people will respond. And that's why they put all this crap in the poppycock, right? Out there and just tell you the most retarded stories to see who believes it and who doesn't. They don't really care whether you believe it or not. They want to see who does and how effective their hypnosis is. I think it's all coming to accumulation where they can pull, hey, how's it going, Bunny? Where they can pull the ultimate, which is Project Bluebeam and the fake alien invasion. It's ultimately what it's coming to, I think. But this is the way that they're going to get you into smart cities. You, hopefully not you. Hopefully you'll have the temerity and the wherewithal to avoid that. But many won't. Most people can't do anything. And again, I'm not blaming. They took it away from us. They took us all the skills away and told us that was colloquial, right? In the same way, they took natural medicine away and said it was snake oil and replaced it with actual snake oil, because that's how they do. Turn it upside down, right? Exchange lies for truth and truth for lies. That is closed loop analysis, my friend. It's cybernetics. That's what it is. And review and revise, and you keep doing it until you have complete, total control. And it's the same reason why I think that they throw truths out there, and it's not mistakes when they Robbie Parker, right? It's not. Could have been a mistake, yeah, but they could have prevented it, right? They could have just not shown it, not let it out there. I keep saying to people, right, when they grab onto things and say, oh, it's disrupting this system, or this is a real thing. Look, if you've heard about it, it's not. They're never going to let that happen. They're never going to let something legitimately fuck up their plans if they can at all help it. The only thing that does that, guys, is love. I'm convinced of that. It's this frequency and vibration thing. They can't manage that. They can't manage a direct connection to the Creator. It just doesn't work for them. Liz, thank you. You're freaking amazing. I love you guys. But they can't do anything about it. So the only thing they can do is separate you from the Creator, and then you're under their control. And they hypnotize people. You can see it around you. So I think this is, so I had a question on social media about this very thing. And I said I would cover it. I said it's fairly oversimplified to say that they're just going to cut the power and try to get people into FEMA camp. That's how the means by which I think they'll do it. And it seems like the handwriting is on the wall at this point. But that's just but one aspect of the whole thing, right? The whole thing. I mean, so many aspects we could get to, right? Is to separate you from the Creator, to get you to follow and accept a false paradigm, to live in an artificial world. We all keep telling you this in different ways. Crow says it in a different way. We all take, again, different views of this, but we all see kind of the same thing. This is what I've said is just great about this this community, right? We all have different views, but what we see are similar, right? And that is that tells me something, right? That if we see it, and we all see it, and from different aspects and different ways, it should tell you that there's a there, right? There's a smoke for the fire. And again, it's not my job to tell you what to do or how to handle it. I'm simply waving my arms wildly and saying, look out, look out. And I feel like I'm way behind. I'm decades behind where I would like to be in preparedness for this. But that doesn't mean I'm giving up and saying, oh, well, it's too late. I'm fucked. So those who are interested and willing, trying to get together and get a place together. I thought we might have found a super duper place this week. Seems like it was one we talked about early on. Looks like it's now been sold. It's so sad. But on the other hand, it almost seems like too perfect, right? If it's too good to be true, maybe it is. Oh, Mark. Oh, yeah. I hate to hear that, Mark, but I will say this. I've seen on social media that people describe people around them getting the jab and their side effects, and that they're worried. And of course, the fact checkers come and say, no, they're all safe and effective. What? No, you can't tell your own experience because that doesn't go along with our narrative. No, I'm not kidding. That's not sarcasm. That's not hyperbole. People have been literally describing actual effects of people that they know, and then they say no, that's not real. They're safe and effective. There's no possible way it could be extensively tested, as they said. Operation Warp Speed, hello. I just lie to you right in your face. Yeah, Joe, it looked terrific, right? But I don't know. We'll see. We just want a place that we can do this ourselves. And again, I don't presume that it will be a utopia, right? Or a Taria of any kind, or a Tardia. I'm not doing that, right? And it's certainly not about, we joke about being a cult with the, because somebody's going to label us that no matter what if we get out of the system. But I will, point out that we just sort of joke that the true meaning of cult is complete devotion, right? It's the root word of culture. It's the society, and so it's a complete devotion to some idea, principle, or person. So it's usually been attached to a person, right? Jim Jones and that sort of stuff. You know me, I have no interest in sitting in that seat. No way too much pressure, and I don't like Kool-Aid. But I am willing to join in and be a participant, right? Certainly. And much to the detractors' chagrin, even when I talk about these things, I have not yet asked for anybody to invest a single penny in it. Although when I do, and I will, if you want to, it will not be any that I haven't done myself. There will probably be buy-in levels of some kind, and I will certainly be putting in exactly that amount myself, taking exactly the same risk for the potential reward. This is, again, in no way a personal gain. I've never asked anyone of you for a penny, other than specifically for a particular item like the computer, or to donate to someone else. Some of you have been remarkably kind and generous and donated to the cause to help me move forward, and I super appreciate that. But that certainly has never been a means of income. It doesn't do that right now, and I have a job. And if you're gonna whimper and whine about it, and you know who you are, go get a job. To stop doing 12-hour podcasts of just nonsense. All right, enough of that. So this is what I wanted to get to today. Is this idea just to know that it's coming. I don't know how to say it. You're in danger. Well, we are in danger of being complacent and becoming addicted. And let's face it, we're all addicted. Is it hypocritical? I mean, we're all addicted to what the society that they put us in. They told us that technology was really cool and made us really smart, and that this is proves that we're the smartest, humans, the ultimate growth, evolution of human, and everybody else was, again, tards, which is again contravened by what we see around us about the nature of these ancients who apparently were way smarter than we are. I mean, it's so smart that one guy, gave us all that we know about in each category: mathematics or water or come on, man, like that. This just I'm still stunned that we ever accepted those stories. They taught us to accept authority, and then the authority told us wild stories and didn't give us any chance but to believe it. Anyway, so here we are in a world where we're all addicted to what they give us, and it is up to us to wean off of that and to do it a different way. And so that's my goal right now, is to do it differently and to get out from under the burden of what they have done to us and relearn. It's a challenge, right? So instead of growing up with this and learning from the time you were a child in a complete society where everybody knows these skills, we're going to have to be the ones who relearn from scratch what it takes to do these things. It's going to be a bitch, man. It's not going to be easy, but definitely worth it, in my opinion. So for those of you who are unwilling or unable to do that, I simply, again, wish you the best. It's not like I'm kissing you off. I'm saying I don't know how to advise you other than to keep close to your Creator, do what you can to draw your line and defend it. But for me and my family, this is that's where we're going to go. John, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, I've gone a little over my typical hour, but sometimes an hour and a half. As soon as I wrap up here, I got to finish packing, headed out to Ceiling Fan Man's house, and we're going to create all kinds of chaos. Oh, dear. World's not ready for that shit, man. And you know it. What's even worse, I told them I'm bringing out a couple of lab coats, so we're getting all kinds of trouble with that, for sure. And I'm going to make green biscuits and gravy tomorrow with, a little bit of medicated gravy, biscuits and gravy. It's freaking phenomenal. But if I make that for breakfast tomorrow morning, we may not leave his house for 2 or 3 days. Sorry, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, there you go. So, man, I so appreciate you guys being here today and for the lovely super chats. Thank you so much. Of course, the grabblers take a bit of that, and I know it's kind of just a way to say hi, a very generous way to do so. If you do want to contribute to these things, of course, all the contact information is in the show notes and descriptions. I am, as we move forward, and I'll feed the trolls a little bit because they love to go crazy on this. What I am going to do is I considered making a separate channel specific for, what you call it, the poppy cult or whatever, the people who want to move forward in this direction of getting out of the society that we're giving and creating our own. But in order to do that, if I made a new channel, again, starting over in some sense, because what I want to do is to keep out these folks who are just knuckleheads, is to make the channel a private, so you do the channel thing under YouTube and you can make memberships. And so with the memberships, it'll cost a little money. We'll talk about that. I'm not going to drain anybody's pockets. It's just these knuckleheads usually live in their mom's basement. They don't really have the resources to invest in this sort of thing. So we're just going to put a little wall up there to keep those guys out, and then we'll figure out, we'll make it worth your while to those of you who join. So what we'll do is we'll set up some memberships for that so that you can come into some private conversations, and it'll be open where we can talk about this and get a little bit better idea of what, where, when, how we intend to do this without interruption from the Tarticus. So we got that going, which is nice. Let's see what else I got for you. Well, I'll be back in the morning for Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World, live on location from the house of the Ceiling Fan Man. That'll be interesting. I do plan at this point to take a portable keyboard so I can still give you some noodles. Yeah. I don't want to hold you up with that because I like the noodles. You're in, but you have no money, no income. You know what? There's ways around that, right? So those people who are willing, but spirit's willing, but the pocketbook is weak. Sweat equity works too. And we're going to require that of everybody. You can't just buy your way in and sit on the couch. That's not going to work either. There are going to be ways, right? And again, I've always said I'll take aptitude or attitude over aptitude, so we can teach skills. We can't teach attitude. But if you're not there yet, you're too far behind, I'm afraid. So we'll make it work, right? For those who have the want and the desire. But it's not going to, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be it'll be fun, but it's not going to be a party campground. There's a shit ton of work that has to be done to make this go. And it's going to cost money. There's just and again, all of us hate the fiat currency thing, but if we can use what we have to invest in this, and then it's not fiat currency anymore, right? But I'm certainly willing to invest everything I have in it, and because I want to. And again, just to shut up the crazy people, I would do this just on my own, just take my money and go, buy some property and do it. But that's kind of only part of the point. What the real point is to be in relationship with people and to be with other people who want the same thing, and that we can do so much more together. And see, that's the part that you retards miss, is that we love one another. We genuinely love one another, and we're a family, and we're here to help each other. And you'll never have that. All you have is hatred for everyone else and yourself. So just stop. All right, enough of that. But the rest of you guys who are good people, and I know who you are, come on, right? We're going to do this thing. And I'm not just, whistling Dixie, as they say. We're gonna do this thing. And, we might fail miserably, but we're going to try. And not be one of those timid souls who never knows victory or defeat. It's okay to fail if you try, right? And if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you do nothing, good luck. Anyway, so come on board if you can. We'll set that up in the coming weeks. I'm just kind of picking my way through it. But I just want to figure out a way that we can come together without the nonsense, and build a world of our own for as long as we can, and be with the people that we want to be with, and do it ourselves. So there you go. Again, be back tomorrow morning. Ancient Wisdom tomorrow night. I think it's sort of scriptural. And who knows what will happen there. It'll be fun. You'll be with me in spirit. Absolutely, David. And again, I encourage people to do it all over the place. If I could, make one in the UK and make one in Finland. I absolutely would encourage it. I know it's far more difficult. Land in the UK is much higher premium. Most of it's already kind of taken. Hey, Thunder Chicken. Thank you, man. Fuck the fucking fucker. That's right. Absolutely. And this is our way of saying that, right? Fuck the fucking fuckers. We're not taking it anymore, and we don't even want to fight you, right? We just want to be left alone. And I think that's going to say a lot when they, do inevitably come to try to get us and pull us out. It's like, what did we do to you? Right? All we wanted was to be left alone. That's all we asked. Just leave us the fuck alone. And they can't stand it. They can't stand it. So, anyway. So great to have you guys here every week. It is, it's a beautiful thing. I've come to just really love you guys and the messages that I get to people that ask for prayer and seeing results is pretty remarkable. I love it. And again, I always say it's some of the best people I've ever met. Some of us I haven't even met yet. Hopefully I will, coming up on the 20th of March in Shelton, Washington. Hit up Dottie for that. We'll try to get more information as we get a little closer to that, the exact location, so you can come out if you're on the West Coast. Try to make Flattober West, I guess, but not in October. And then coming up the 27th, the Solar Return. Check out Karen B. For that. Just hit flattoberfest.com. I think we'll take you there. But we got that going. As I often do, I'll leave you with a little music outro today, something from Joe Ray and I from way back in the day, it starts with 19s, right? 1990 something or other. Let's do this one. I haven't played this one, I think, in a minute. This is my vocals on top of a somewhat different arrangement. It's not the original arrangement, but pretty close to In Your Eyes. And this was one of our first of this variety. So 1991, I think, is probably where this one comes from. Anyway, written by Joe Ray and myself and the late Jim Rogers. And give it some thoughts on the lyrics if you can hear and understand them. And we'll see you again tomorrow morning if you can make it. Much love to everybody. And Ceiling Fan Man, we'll see you in just a bit. I have a little bit to do, so if I'm a little later, I'll keep in touch. I'll let you know where I'm at. Got to finish packing a couple other things on the way out. So anyway, much love to everybody. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.
just how far you ran, trying to save the day and live forever. Do you remember the dream you were shown? Do you remember the peace you'd known? I'll be out